The South African Music Rights Organization has in recent weeks been in the news for all the wrong reasons. There were allegations of corruption and fraud leveled against the organization. Let's now get a right of reply from SAMRO's Annabell Lebethe, who is here to respond. Remember, we had the claims there that were made by Tebogo Sithathu on the show last week. So let's listen to some of what Tebogo had to say.
Publishers, we don't know them from above, so we've got nothing personal against them. The issue is that they are implicated in the forensic report. That is utter nonsense. There's a crime scene at SAMRO. There has been for many years. This does not even start with these current board members, in particular, the notorious for so-called independent board members. So here's the story. We followed the due process to remove those publishers. We don't know them from above, so we've got nothing.
All right. Good evening, Annabell. Thank you so much for your time this evening. How do you respond, particularly to the claim that SAMRO is a crime scene?
Good evening, Bongiwe, and good evening to the viewers as well. Maybe let me just start by indicating that the clip that we just heard of Tebogo, who is a member of SAMRO, is incorrect in terms of his statement that the independent directors were removed on the 10th of July. And I want to contextualize it by saying that there are very specific provisions in law, the Companies Act in particular, and Section 71 of the Companies Act, that provides a process that needs to be followed when members want to remove directors. We acknowledge and note that the members of SAMRO have got the right to remove and appoint directors. And on the 10th of July, it was made very clear that the process that had been followed, which was a vote that was put on the day of the meeting, of the extraordinary general meeting, to remove the three directors, non-executive directors, was invalid. And so what we then sought to do was to, yes, allow members, because it is ultimately their wish and desire to appoint and remove, to allow members the right to follow the right process, and also allow the directors that they sought to remove an opportunity to make representations to the members of the organization. Mm-hmm. And thereafter, members would then have been allowed an opportunity to vote as to their removal or non-removal.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Let's then go back to my earlier question, which is something he said. Is SAMRO a crime scene?
SAMRO is not a crime scene, and probably just to demonstrate that what we've seen in the past few years is a growth in terms of the money that SAMRO pays out in terms of royalties, as well as we've managed to reduce costs. So, for example, what we have available for distribution, and these are just preliminary results, is an amount of about 683 million rands. Last year, we were able to distribute or set aside for distribution around 622 million rands. And so what's important to note is that in the past 3 to 4 years, we have seen a steady increase in terms of the trajectory of revenue collection as well as distributions to members. And we are very happy with the progress that the organization has achieved, because it ultimately means that more money is going towards members by way of royalties. And therefore, we've collected from more music users across the country, as is our responsibility as a collective management organization.
There is, though, an unhappiness with the members that I think Tebogo speaks for, because he says that, for them, they don't have confidence in this current leadership as well as the board, because they feel that you're protecting each other.
I totally disagree with that when you were in that. I think the board and particularly executive leadership continues to act responsibly in terms of the obligation that we have to protecting the copyright of our members. We take that responsibility very seriously. And so we will continue and have demonstrated that our efforts are towards protecting those rights of members and paying out more money to members and collecting money for members from music users. So I know and appreciate that there will be divergent views across our member base, because this is their livelihoods, right? And our responsibility is to ensure that they benefit economically and financially from that livelihood, which is their creativity. So we will continue to exercise that responsibility diligently and prudently. And by way of example, we've seen that in the past 2 to 3 years, the expenses that we then take from the money that we collect, we've reduced that from what was about 40% in 2018. We're currently sitting at a cost to income ratio of about 22.3%, which means that the organization has become a bit more efficient in terms of collecting and distributing money and more money going out to members. And ultimately that in itself, I think, is an achievement.
Yeah, you speak about the achievement and more money, but you are aware that there are members who say they're still waiting for their money. What's happening there?
So it depends, and I think I was saying this to somebody last week, that our responsibility as a collective management organization is to collect when music is being played. So the music has to be played in order for us to collect from music users. If Annabell's music is not in high rotation, then the SABC is not paying anything towards the work that Annabell has written or created. We do acknowledge that there are, in instances, historical concerns that members continuously bring to our attention. And we obviously have an obligation, as I said, to correct and to adjust where there are instances where members have correctly said, but you have not paid me accurately or correctly for this particular period. We then do go back together with the member and correct where we have determined that the payout that they would have received was not correct.
Is it just music that's not been played, though? Because there are some who are raising this concern, saying that music has been played, but they're still struggling to get access to the money.
Look, I think it will vary from member to member, but ultimately where the member has demonstrated that money is due to them, we will do a post adjustment in terms of the distribution itself, but we also need to verify that. So it's not a case of just simply coming to someone and saying, well, my work was played with no proof and evidence. So we work together with the member to ensure that we verify and we find the proof to be able to pay out reasonably and responsibly to the member and the rights holders for that particular song.
So quickly, before I let you go, there's the Fundudi report, which I'm sure you are aware is subject of much controversy. Tebogo was saying to us that you as SAMRO are not releasing this report because you're protecting some people. And then he cites the fact that there's one member, one executive, for example, one member of staff who would have, according to him, is in the report as having stolen money and is living large in the United States. And you as SAMRO do not want to release this Fundudi report because you simply do not want to, the members of the public or even your members to see how bad things are. And he says that you need to release the report to them because it's their money and it's their right. What's the status of that report? Where is it currently?
Okay, Bongiwe, maybe let me try to be as short as possible, noting that in 2023, when the report was released, we did table it. The forensic auditors themselves presented it to members in terms of what the findings of the particular investigation were. We did indicate to members as well at the time that fraud is perpetuated by two parties and that we acknowledge that there was a member of staff at the time who is cited in the report. Tebogo is probably referring not to an executive, but rather to a non-executive director, a former, I must say, non-executive director, who he mentions left South Africa and I think is currently residing in the USA. But we have acted on caution from the Hawks. The matter was reported to the police. We have repeatedly and consistently asked the Hawks to allow us permission to release the report. And the caution that we've received, and are acting just on the basis of that caution, is that they would not want the release of the report to hinder the investigation. And we are purely acting out of caution. We have stressed to the Hawks and made it clear to them that our members are urging us to release the report so that they're also empowered with the knowledge that currently, sitting in this position that I have, and that they're not making assumptions about what the report contains. We have heard the members' plight in terms of that, and we've consistently said that we're just waiting for a go-ahead, in a sense, from the Hawks, because we've opened a criminal case. Yes, people will say that there's no court judgment that prohibits us from the release of the report. We understand that and are aware of that, but we are just making sure that releasing the report does not jeopardize the criminal processes wherein we have gone to the police and sought their support in following the criminal process and bringing those members who were found wanting to account and to book.
Annabell, thank you so much for taking our call for the right of reply, as we promised our viewers last week. Thank you so much for talking to us. That is SAMRO's CEO there, Annabell Lebethe. And we did say last week that we were going to get you the response from SAMRO on what was raised by Tebogo. And I do hope now you do have, both sides, I suppose, of this conversation.